Hello my friends, welcome to my kitchen. I'm going to be making some mango mead. I'll be using some mango juice with no preservatives in it, of course, and my own honey from the fall of 2022 harvest. So it's Wildflower Honey. It's actually very clear, a lot of clover and dandelion still in it. It's very nice honey. So this is everything I'll be using. I'm not going to go into too much detail here in the video. I will, of course, as I use it, but for a full detailed list of everything, what exactly everything here is, look to the description below. And yeah, this is everything I'm using, and the process I'll start right now. Alright, everything starts with your primary fermenter. So you can use a crock or a pail, a bucket. You'll see a lot of these on YouTube as primary fermenters. Sorry. This doesn't leave you a lot of room. After you rack off the sediment and everything, you're not going to have a gallon. If you do, congratulations. I prefer to use a bucket. This is a 2-gallon fermenting pail. It comes with a grommeted lid here. I can put in an airlock. It seals with an airlock. Everything's been sanitized. So simply, it's real easy. We're going to pour in the mango juice. I'm going to take some water. So these containers are 1.89 liters. So 2 of these containers is going to be just shy of a gallon. So to make up the difference, I'm just going to be adding a couple cups of water using bottled spring water. This is going to get out all the last little bits, all the goodness of the mango. I've also marked my bucket with tape at the 1 gallon mark so that I can see how much must I have. Not just actually hit the minimum 1 gallon mark there. So I've already put in about a cup of water. There's a second cup. So in primary, you are going to lose some. You're going to have an inch or 2 of sediment at the bottom, depending on what your ingredients are. So you put in a little bit extra water, a little bit extra juice, whichever you're using. This juice looks pretty thick. So I put 2 cups of water in there, just above the line I have marked. It's hard to see, but I'm just going to add a little bit more. And there's also going to be a little bit more water added. So I probably put 2.5 cups of water in there, or just over half a liter. I suppose. But yeah, so there's my liquid. This is my must. Now to this I'm going to add a few things. Number 1, I'm going to add some Pectic Enzyme. This is really easy. I'm just going to follow the directions. Let's add 1 teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon per US gallon. So I got just over a gallon. I'm going to add half a teaspoon. Now it's just white powder. I'm using a teaspoon measuring here, so let's try to get half of one. It's not going to be exact. If you put a little bit extra, it's not going to hurt anything. If you make with jam or something that's high in pectin, like apples, I always double up the recommended dosage. That is going to help it to clear. So all it's going to do here, just what it says here, increases juice yields from fruit. So when you add it to berries or fresh fruit that you just cut up, it's going to help extract the juice and prevents pectin haze. And it recommends 1 hour before pitching your yeast. So if I was using berries or raw fruit or something, I like to let it sit overnight, even up to 24 hours. But since this is only juice and it's going to sit in there anyways, it's going to be fine. Follow the directions, you can't go wrong. Add a little extra or let it sit a little longer and you're perfectly safe also. Now, I'm also going to be adding citric acid, which is the primary acid in mangoes. I'm going to be adding 1/8 of a teaspoon. A good rule of thumb is 1/8 to maybe, I don't know, 1/2 a teaspoon of acid. So if you use different acids, that would be the total. So here, it's just a white crystal. You can put it right in your must to begin your fermentation. Now, malic acid is also found in small quantities in a lot of fruits, and mangoes also. This is what gives you that sour flavor, like Sour Patch Kids or something. It's coated in this. I'm just going to add a little bit of this because I want a little bit of that sour, and I want 1/4 of a teaspoon of acid. So again, another 1/8 of a teaspoon. I'll just throw it in there. Now, since this isn't like a red wine where I'm fermenting on skins and seeds and stems, I'm not getting a lot of the tannin from the plant that this fruit came from, and I will be using some wine tannin. This is made from the stems and skins of grapes. This isn't the same kind of tannin you would use for oaking. There's two different kinds. There's one up front in your must, which comes from the plants, and then there's the tannin that you'll get from aging in a barrel, a wooden barrel. So if you're not aging in a wooden barrel, you can add that tannin with oak chips or oak powder. Okay, now this is going to come out. It's going to look a little bit like coffee, ground up coffee. Doesn't take very much. Can also be used as a clearing or a fining agent in conjunction with gelatin. That's something I'm not going to be doing. And this also gets added up front in your must. So that was 1/8 of a teaspoon. And again, that was wine tannin. Alright, so any tannin that's lacking from the ingredients, I'm going to make up for with the wine tannin powder. There's other things you can use. Like I said, you can wait and then age it on wood or in wood, or you can simply use the wine tannin. But some ingredients, say making a methylene with meadowsweet or something, it has a lot of tannin in it. So you want to be careful that you know what tannins are in your ingredients before adding something else. That's why I do not ever, in any circumstance, recommend substituting a grape or wood tannin with teas. It's not
It's not the way to go in my opinion. So what I've done here is I've added Pectic Enzyme, I've added my acid blend that I made myself using citric and malic acid, and I've added some tannin. That's straight to the must. This is before we've done anything else. And what I'm going to do with this is just give it a quick stir and take a gravity reading, because there are sugars in store-bought juices, right? So I want to see how much sugar is already in here before we start. So I'll just grab my hydrometer and cylinder and something to stir this up. I'll be right back. Okay, I have my hydrometer and my cylinder. This is acid resistant, food grade stainless steel. A wine thief would be better, but you need something to take out a sample. Oops, not very good at getting this on camera. Okay, so you want to just fill up your cylinder, your must. This is before I put any honey in it, right? I'm just making sure how much sugar is in here and how much honey I'll add. I don't really want very strong mead. More than happy with something less than 13%, maybe around 10%, 11%. Oh, there's too much liquid. That's floating. Okay. Always get lost on this thing. Okay, there we go. We are at looks like 10. Oh, it moves. It's pretty thick. The 10, maybe 48 or 1050. So there's quite a bit of sugar, already the equivalent of just over a pound of honey in there. So I don't want to be putting less than 2 pounds. I have my scale. I'll get the honey and we'll add some honey. So using the hydrometer, you can design your potential alcohol by volume. The alcohol by volume will be dependent on how much sugar is in your ferment, of course. So by using this and a number, accessing a chart online, you can figure out how much to add, right? What reading you want to get get what percentage of alcohol. So this was at 1050 and I want it at less than 1.1. So I will get some honey on the go. Okay, before I continue messing with adding honey and trying to get the right specific gravity, I'll be using a Lalvin product. This is the QA-23. I simply follow the directions on the back. I have some water warmed up to 35 degrees Celsius here. I'm going to start the yeast in that, let it sit for 20 minutes while I'm messing with this, and hopefully by the time I'm done with this, the yeast will be ready. I only use half a package for 1 gallon. It's more than enough. Everything you need to know about using it is written right on the back of the package. Very handy. These Lalvin products are my favorite. Of course, they're easy for me to get. They're a Canadian product and I'm Canadian. So they're common in the local stores and online. You can get them at your local brew shop anywhere in North America, I'm sure. There's about half package. Now the reason I'm using the, where are we getting the camera here? The QA-23 is because this is good with tropical flavors. And then mango is tropical. So I want to see how it is. But as far as alcohol production or you know, fermenting is concerned, any wine yeast will do the trick. Wild yeast will do the trick. Don't use bread yeast. If you're desperate and you have no yeast and you're poor, and you don't have any money, you can't buy yeast, and you have a pack of bread yeast, don't use it. Just make a wild starter. There's yeast already in honey. Just buy good honey. No problems. So the yeast starter, I'm just going to set aside. That's going to sit there for at least half an hour or so. The water will come down to room temperature. And as far as this, let's start adding the honey to it and get the right specific gravity. Alright, I got my honey here. This is from my own honeybees. This was this year's harvest, the fall harvest. I'm just gonna, I also have a scale to the side. I'm gonna try to runs like water and stuff. Beautiful. I warmed it up a bit just in the water bath. Nothing. Okay, so a little bit more. I want to put about 2 pounds in here. I had weighed out 3 pounds. Right? It's common. You'll see that 3 pounds should give you a well, 13% alcohol, right, in a gallon of water. 1.1 specific gravity, I believe. Okay, let's see how that gives me. I could just throw it all in there. It would ferment all great and everything, but I really think the sweet spot as far as alcohol is either really high, you go to 18 to 20% range and then back sweeten, it makes a very tasty mead, or 10 to 13%. That 13 to 18%, that mid-range of 15-16% alcohols, I get negative feedback on that. Either there's something missing from them to balance them at that alcohol level, or it's just too strong with something missing. I don't know what it is, but I get really good feedback from the lower alcohol and the really high alcohol, but not in the middle. So it's a work in progress. I may have no clue what I'm talking about. I mean, most of them taste good to me. I'm just going by what other people have told me. So for my friends' enjoyment, my family's enjoyment, I'm shooting for a lower alcohol. Would like to get something maybe 11-12% here would be great. So I've added about 2 pounds of honey. Wish that would sit there without falling down on something. Getting sticky stuff everywhere. Seem to have lost my hydrometer. Oh, into the sanitizer bucket. Let's see here what we get. Alright, perfect. Yeah, so 2 pounds of honey plus the fruit juice gave me 1.1. And I will stop there. Rest of honey can go in the next mead or eat it on toast or something. Alright. Okay, I'll bring it back when I pitch the yeast. Alright, the yeast has sat for about 20 minutes, maybe a little longer. I don't know how well you can see it, but starting to form little clusters and bubbles and ballooning up to the top. This just gives it a head start. Nothing else in here will compete with it. And you can also see if it's alive. If it does nothing, it looks the same as when you put it in the water 20 minutes after you put it in, then it may not still be viable. Here, that's all there is to it. Pitching the yeast in there. The unused yeast, and all my yeast I keep stored in the refrigerator. If I'm going to use it, I take it out 24 hours before I use it. And then I make a starter in some warm water, following the directions on the back of the yeast package, 20 minutes or half an hour before I pitch the yeast. Whoops, made a mess over there. Alright, so we got our fruit juice, our honey, got it up to a starting gravity of 1.100, which should give me a ABV of 13%. This is what most recipes shoot for. It's kind of a generic marker. You'll see the 3 pounds of honey in a lot of recipes, if not all the recipes. But because the fruit juice had a lot of sugar in it, I mean this brand or whatever, Sun Tropics, you could basically just toss some yeast in this and have yourself some jailhouse brew in a week. But yeah, it has a lot of sugar in it. I only had to add 2 pounds of honey. So instead of a 3 pound honey recipe, this is 2 pounds, but still comes out to 13% alcohol. I also added the acids. I added citric acid and malic acid, and I added some tannin powder. I forgot to mention with the tannin powder also, this is an antioxidant. In other words, a preservative, or a natural preservative. I don't use Camden tablets or anything else. I may, I will show you how to use them, but in this it was not necessary. But as a preservative and an antioxidant, tannin can be very useful. So, everything's in there, everything's mixed up, gravity readings taken. I know what to expect for alcohol. The yeast is in there. It looks alive to me. I'm going to seal this up so nothing gets in there. Keep out any fruit flies, dust, spores, fungus, bacteria, cat hair, my hair, whatever. Okay, so you make sure it's got a good seal. Now, primary fermentation is not so important, but because I'm using an airlock, I want the gas to escape through the airlock, which again is not that important. The important thing is to keep stuff out. Now, I can just simply use a clean dishcloth and lay it over the top, like if I was using a stoneware crock. That's perfectly fine. Worked great for my great-grandparents and my grandparents. It will work good for you also. I've done it myself. So what I have here is a 3-piece airlock. There's a piece inside. This is where I always see people on Facebook and mold in their sanitize your hands, wash your hands, use the sanitizer you have for your equipment to sanitize your hands. You only need 30 seconds of contact with the sanitizer, but dirty fingers touching that small insert in the middle will leave gunk on it, and you'll grow mold or stuff. Now this is primary fermentation, so it's not going to sit very long, sit around a week maybe. It's not that important what you put in the airlock at this point. I can just put a little bit of your sanitizer liquid in there. If it's your secondary and it's going to sit for a while, the sanitizer liquid may not be your best choice. There's a line, I just went past it. Hopefully it's not dripping into the... It just might be. Yeah, it is. There, it filled up the spout and it's running right through. Now, there's an argument for using vodka. I just got a bit of sanitizer, which is perfectly food safe. Let's try this again. I was going to say the using sanitizer water in your airlock's kind of fun actually, because as the gases come up through it. Okay, here, I just filled it manually and I can see there's no water in the downspout. That's interesting. Okay, that works much better than just keep pouring more liquid into your... First time for everything. Of course it happens while I'm making a video. But yeah, all there is to it. It's got an airlock on it now. Using the sanitizer water, once a gas escapes, it's going to bubble and bubble like crazy because the sanitizer makes foam, right? So if you're one of those people that need to see action or bubbles and don't like fermenting in buckets because of that, just throw some sanitizer in your airlock and you'll get lots of... more than enough bubbles. It'll foam out of the top more than likely. But that's all there is to it. Of course, label your brew so you know what, or your ferment so you know what it is and when to check it. Now I'm going to come through once a day after this. I'm just going to lift the bucket up, give it a good swirling around. Keep that yeast in there all moving around and everything from caking up on the bottom for the first few days. Probably after 3 or 4 days I won't even bother doing that. But there's no reason to open it. There's no fruit or anything in there to punch the cap down through. So I'm just going to let it sit. Maybe I'll bring it back and show you some action in the airlock and me swishing the bucket for 10 seconds or whatever a day until the fermentation is done. But yeah, that's all there is to it. Really easy. Tasty mango mead. But I'll see you in a couple days, or for you a couple seconds. Here's the airlock, 24 hours after pitching the yeast. Getting some good activity. And some visual confirmation that the fermentation has started. So all I'm going to do, as I'm going to do each day for the first 4 or 5 days maybe, is give it a good shake. So I'm just going to lift the bucket up, give it a swirl, and put it back down. There you go, that's good fun, eh? That's what I mean about putting a sanitizer in the airlock. And if you want some visual stimulation, that can be quite entertaining. But yeah, you shake it up and it'll start off gassing. So this is only day one. Fermentation is going great. This will continue at least about a week, I'd say. There's no exact timeline. I'll be using the hydrometer to determine when it is finished, not the amount of bubbles in the airlock. But yeah, there's all the action you get to see for the first week, fermenting in a bucket. But yeah, I'll bring you back when it's done, and we'll see what we get. Alright, and 7 days later, it is still bubbling away, though it's a lot slower now. I won't be lifting up the pail anymore and swishing it around. I've let it sit still after about day 5, and I'm going to let it sit like this maybe up to another week. The idea here is let it finish fermenting, of course, but also to let it start settling a bit so that when I rack it, I can leave behind as much sediment as possible instead of racking quickly in a secondary and taking it all with me. And just like that, it's 13 days later. I'm pretty confident most of the fermentation is finished by now. I'll be opening it up, taking a hydrometer reading to determine that, of course. But yeah, just giving you a quick look at what Airlock looks like after almost 2 weeks. Like I said, 13 days. So all that's left now is open it up, take a hydrometer reading, maybe take a taste, and transfer it to secondary. Okay, I've taken off the airlock and I've opened up the lid. From the inside, it looks like it was a pretty good ferment. Went up all the way to the lid, got some muck on it. You see all the mango stuff is floating at the top. And it's quite, well, a little bit surprising how much pulp was in that juice. Maybe I should have bagged the juice, I don't know. But I'm going to take a hydrometer reading. I'm going to draw a sample for hydrometer reading and for a taste. Just putting the lid to the side to be cleaned. So I don't want to get too much air or anything in there. And I'm just going to draw it out with this. It's fully sanitized. Everything they'll be touching the mead today is fully sanitized, including my hands. I'm going to expel the air from before I put it into the mead, so as not to get any more oxygen than I need to into it. Well, it's pretty clear underneath the floaties. This may cause a problem when I'm racking though. Getting caught in the racking cane. We'll see how that goes. So I like to use brew bags and such, so as not to get stuff caught in the cane and you get bubbles and all that kind of air going in your mead or wine. I'm just taking my hydrometer out of the sanitizer bucket. And again, I always fill these too much. That'll be my taste, I guess. Boom, that's a good sign. Sinks right to the bottom almost, barely floating. Give it a good spin. Check for air bubbles stuck to it. If air bubbles are stuck to it, you can just rub it up and down against the side of the to dislodge the bubbles. Alright, in my infinite wisdom I did not wear my glasses. This has fermented just below 1.0. Looks like 0.996, 8 moves. I'd say 0.998. So it was a nice, fairly quick, 13 days. From 1.10 to 0.998. Gives me around 13% alcohol. So I'm very happy with that. That's what I expected when I started. Everything worked out just fine. Got nothing there to taste. Alright, this is all sanitary. This can be put back in. It's not really my favorite thing to do. It'll disturb the must or whatever. When I'm done with that, I'm going to put this over to be washed. I like to rinse everything off before I put it back in the sanitizer, so I don't get a whole bucket full of, well, in this case it would be mango chunks. Alright, well, before I rack it over, which is what I'm going to do because it's finished fermenting, I'm going to taste it. So, cheers. Smells raw. You can smell the mango. The mango part smells good. Smell a little bit of alcohol in it. Yeah. And the alcohol is definitely up front, as it should be after it's only 13 days. It's freshly made ethanol. Definitely taste it first. It's not overpowering or anything. It's just there, like a dry white wine, that initial flavor you get. Yeah, second and third sips are better. And the mango does come through on the back end. It's kind of like an aftertaste. So I think I'm going to rack this over, let it sit in secondary, and I may back sweeten before I bottle. I think a little bit of sweetness will bring that mango more to the forefront. But yeah, very successful, very easy to do. It was just mango juice. I added honey and yeast, a bit of acid and tannin. And it tastes very nice actually, which is not something I say all the time when I open up a bucket of freshly fermented mead. They definitely don't, they're not really ready to drink at 2 weeks, right? I mean, you can drink this and get plastered off of it or whatever, but is it going to be as enjoyable as it will be in 6 months or a year? I really doubt it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, besides babbling on about nonsense, is I'm going to transfer it to the 1 gallon glass carboy. This has been sanitized and sitting on a draining rack. So this is I'm going to sit this on the floor. Transfer it over. I'm going to use racking cane and siphon tubing. The end of the tube, it's really hard to get in the camera. The end of the tube I put right into the glass carboy, right to the bottom of it, and then I'm going to move the glass carboy to a lower elevation than the bucket or whatever I'm drawing out of. That way gravity will keep the siphon running. So I put a towel on the floor. I'm just sitting the carboy on the floor gently. I like to have towels underneath any glassware I'm using. And then here's the racking cane part. This goes into your mead. Again, it's all sanitized. This has a pump that goes inside of it. It can be taken out. It's a good idea when you sanitize it. Dump this upside down. It does retain water in it. It doesn't drain out the bottom. So you just insert the cane. This is going to go into the mead. I'm going to give it 1 or 2 quick pumps, and that's all it's going to need. There's a stopper on the end, so it's not going to go all the way to the bottom just to suck everything up. You should only get the mead and not the sediment. But there, just like that, 2 quick pumps, and it's pumping. I'm not seeing too much chunks or anything flowing through it, so it's very good. It's an interesting color to it. I thought it would end up being more of a brown or something, but it has retained some of that yellow. And now that it's moving through the cane and the siphon, I can smell it very well. It smells pretty good. For a raw mead, pretty impressed. This is definitely something I would do again. Though I think next time I'll use, if I can find mangoes, right time of season or whatever, I'd like to use some mangoes. Okay, I'm drawing up some sediment, not too much, not compared to what's in that bucket. And this is only the first racking, so it's going to sit and clear some more, and I can rack off any of that stuff in there. Oh, I'm getting good. A pretty good rack. Left most of it out. Bring it up here so you can see it. Okay, so here's what's left. I don't know how well you can see that. It's basically, I'd say, 2.5, almost 3 inches deep, and it's just a sludge. There's very little liquid left in there at all. So all that sludge had floated to the top. I've mixed whatever cake was in there, so you can't really see that in the bottom. But I drew off most of the liquid, and thanks to primary ferment in a bucket, I got a decent amount of liquid. So that's going out. The skunks will enjoy that. They like to eat that. We'll have a good time after that. And here's what I got. Almost a full carboy. Definitely over the 1 gallon mark of the carboy. And it's not going to require any marbles or anything in here, at least not until I rack it over again. It's actually fairly clear, which surprises me with the like gunk in there. And yeah, it has a nice, well, I'd say, nice mango color to it, which is very surprising. I thought the color would change, but yeah, there you have it. Okay, so from here, all this needs left to do is seal it off, protect it from oxidation while it ages. I got a bung that fits properly. Make sure you purchase the proper bungs for the proper carboys. Matching carboys, whatever. Okay, the real trick to keeping these things sticking in there good is to dry them off. So it's been sitting in the sanitizer water, it's fully sanitized. This was a clean paper towel. I'm just going to wipe and make sure the inside of the bung hole is very dry, and the bung is very dry, and the friction this creates will help keep it in place. It's also, I found, very important, and a big mistake I see people doing is assembling the airlock with the bung before inserting the entire assembly into the carboy. A better way to do it, I find, at least a higher rate of success of the bung not popping back out, is to put the bung in first. Then when the bung is in and secure, then I'm going to insert. Once again, I'm going to wipe off any excess liquid to create more friction. Not that the airlocks usually pop out of the bung. It's usually the bung popping out of the carboy. Now, if the bung's already in the hole and you shove the airlock down the middle, it's going to expand the bung. If the bung is dry and secure, that will just help it even more to stay in place, that outward pressure. Okay, now you don't need duct tape, you don't need elastic bands, coat hangers, what else have I seen? All kinds of stuff, plastic bags. Okay, you don't need any of that. You just need to dry it, make sure the surface areas are dry, create that friction, and let physics do the rest for you. It may still pop out, keep an eye on it though, it's not a perfect solution, right? Keep an eye on it over the next few hours and even over the next day or so. But yeah, seems to be in there pretty good. Okay, so for primary ferment, I just use some sanitizer water in the airlock. This is going to sit considerably longer. My primary was in there, like I said, can't find the other piece. Primary was only going for 13 days. So the water in here was only sitting in here for 13 days. And it was moving and stuff. For longer term, use your good old vodka. This is a nice, affordable vodka, locally made. Very neutral flavor. It's good for making extracts. And that's all there is to it. There's a line on the airlock, fill it to the line. Seal it off. Now all that's left is I got to make a label and put it out of the light. It's good to keep it while it's aging in a dark place. Dark and cool is perfect. Not expecting any more fermentation to happen. It has been completely fermented. If I stabilize and back sweeten, I think I'll have a very nice drinkable mead this time next year. But yeah, I'll change up the camera angle, show you a better view of what I got. But that's all there is to it. Very easy. Alright, here's a better look at what it looks like after it's been racked over into a carboy. I'll just keep this in a dark, cool place, keep it out of the light, and this will bulk age for several months. I will rack it over again because, as you can see, there are floaties still in there from the mango. So another rack, maybe even two, before I bottle it. It should clear out nicely by then also. It's a little bit cloudy now because I mixed it up. It was looking a lot more clear than that as I was racking it. So I'm pretty happy with this one. It tastes pretty good already. I will be stabilizing and back sweetening it before I bottle it, but that's not for up to almost a year from now. So no use keeping you guys around till then. But if you've enjoyed any of this, found any of it useful, or you just want to hang out here as a friend, I'm always welcoming new friends to the channel. So please subscribe, hit that like button, and have yourself a great day wherever you are, whenever you watch this. Peace.